What's up, everybody? So glad and so grateful that you guys are all joining me tonight on a Monday night to hear out my presentation on You Can Still Learn Online, a step-by-step guide to keep that online noggin jogging. And before we get into the actual meat of the presentation, I just wanted to provide you guys a little bit of background on why I created this presentation. So at the start of COVID, when everything went online, you know, before we all mastered Zoom and Google Classroom, and before we were telling everyone that they're still muted and stuff like that every single day, there was a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and, you know, straight up a lot of loss in motivation. And, you know, it was mentioned that I'm a college advisor at a high school, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later, but I saw in a lot of my students that they were struggling. You know, grades were dropping, plans were changing, and just overall, just a lot of stress involved in the whole school and college and educational aspects. So it really inspired me to create this list. I'm going to provide you guys with 8 things today that you can do to make sure that you're still learning online. And I really hope that I can help you out as you go on in your online and college journey. So something I do want to talk a little bit about is myself. So, you know, I'm not like, you know, all talking about myself for no reason. I just want you guys to have a little context behind who's kind of telling you what you're about to hear right now. So the very first thing that I always like to talk about when it comes to who I am, and that's me over there on the left, as you could see, is that I'm a first generation college student. So I've noticed, especially with Destination College Plus, something that we throw around a lot is the term first generation college student. So by now you should know that a first generation college student is basically someone whose parents or guardians did not go to a college and finish with their 4-year degree, okay? So what does that really mean, and why is that important, right? Well, personally speaking, as a first generation college student, what it means to me is that I was the first to even go and to finish college, okay, my whole entire family. My parents immigrated here, they survived some scary stuff, some crazy things, but more importantly, they struggled for me to have a future, and they sacrificed. That might be a very, very, very similar story to a lot of you guys out there. And before, as a kid growing up, I used to kind of sweep that information about me under the rug. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that that made me who I am, and I wear it on my sleeve, and I encourage you guys to wear it on your sleeve too. You know why? Because a lot of us who are first generation college students, we grow up without that additional resource or additional mentors or advice that a lot of other students have. And that's something that you will recognize when you do go to college or as you're going through high school, right? We always know that college is important. People always tell us, oh, getting an education is important, but no one's there to tell us how to do it, why we should do it, and honestly, what to do. So a part of my identity is also the fact that I started at a community college. So for those of you who are going to community college now or plan to go to community college, seriously, it's a great option for you to start there and to go anywhere. And what do I mean by that? Well, I started at Rio Hondo Community College, a college out in Whittier, right outside of Los Angeles. And then I transferred to Cal State Northridge, where I got my bachelor's degree in psychology. And now I'm actually getting my master's degree in educational counseling at the University of Southern California. So why do I say that? I say that because I want you guys to know that I've started from scratch. I've been to different type of schools, both in size and also in, I guess, focuses, right? But I want you to know that I'm not saying that, you know, I go to like these specific schools to flex on you guys or to gas myself up or anything like that, right? I'm just letting you guys know that I've experienced a lot, and my goal in life is to share those experiences with all of you. Professionally, I'm a college advisor with the USC College Advising Corps. My job is to help high school students from low-income, underrepresented first-generation college student communities. And I'm actually blessed to say that I serve at the high school that I went to. So I literally know what it's like to be walking around the same streets as them, growing up in the same communities and things like that. But I've also learned a lot of things through my role as a college advisor, okay? I've learned a lot about compassion. I've learned a lot about helping students reach their goals and get to their goals and even finding out what they are. But something else that I've learned was that the future is going to be lit. And that's something that I always say, not in those words. Honestly, I don't like saying the word lit because I feel like, you know, I'm old. I shouldn't be saying that. But either way, the world needs to watch out, right? because they always say the youth is coming, but they're wrong. The youth is not coming. The youth is here. And that's you guys. And that's each and every single one of you guys who might fit that audience level where I say you're in high school or you're in college right now. If there's something that you guys want to change or something that you guys want to do, go out there and do it, because now is the time and now is your time. Okay. On the side, since the pandemic happened, I've been extremely motivated to be able to kind of spread this knowledge and spread it for free. So I'm also a host of a podcast called Stuff I Wish They Taught Me, where I talk about all of the little things in life that I've learned that I wish I knew a lot sooner. And I hope that I can teach you those things as well. So if you like this presentation or any of my other presentations, feel free to check me out. And I hope that you'll be able to learn a few things from there as well. Okay. So going into the presentation, today we're going to be talking about the top 8 tips to mastering online learning. Okay. So tip number 1, remember your why and staying motivated. Okay. I always like to start this tip off by telling a little story about when I started my first online class at community college, and it was in philosophy. Okay. So this was a class where everything was new. We had something called Blackboard. We posted, essays, quizzes, forums. We were interacting with people. See, now, like, it's very common for us to meet on Zoom and stuff like that. But back then, we didn't really do that often, or honestly, we didn't even do it at all. And we talked a lot about stories, Socrates, philosophies, and things like that. But the main thing that I got out of that class was when my professor says, well, what is your why? What does that mean, right? Well, it's important to remember your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you going to school? Why are you taking this class? Why are you trying so hard? Why are you not trying so hard, right? Why are you working so hard? What is your reason? And that's the number 1 tip, because all of the other tips won't really matter unless you get this one down, okay? So this is definitely something I want you guys to think about, because knowing your why is going to help you stay motivated. And it's also going to push you when things get hard, right? So a lot of people ask me, well, Alex, you always say, what's your why to us? Well, what's your why? And this is something that I've learned through a lot of trial and error and through a lot of experience. But definitely my why is that in a bigger picture, I want to change the world, right? And it's very hard to do that. But to me, changing the world to me is helping every single student or person as much as I can, one student, one person at a time. Like, that's my way, right? If I can't change the world, then at least I can help change their world. And that's my vision. And that's my why. And that's what keeps me going. It keeps me doing things, stepping out of my comfort zone, being better, always wanting to work harder and things like that, right? And it's very important to know this early on. So my tip number 1 to you is know what your why is. And when times get tough, your why will always be there for you to help you persevere. So tip number 1 is remembering your why. Tip number 2 is control your environment. So now we're going to get a little bit more technical, okay? I don't mean to talk about philosophy right now. I'm literally talking about controlling your environment. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, sometime in March or April, I was working out of my living room. And in my living room, I had a little coffee table, okay? I had a big TV in front of me, right? Sometimes it was on, sometimes it was not. Don't tell my boss. I had 2 dogs running around, my Boston Terrier, my Chow Chow. I love them, but they're annoying. Always jumping around, distracting me, right? I had my mom talking on the phone all day type of thing. I know if some of you can relate, all right? And I was like, in my meetings, I would be like this because the table was all awkward. And by the end of the day, my neck would really hurt and things like that. And at the end of the day, what I'm trying to paint the picture of here is just a very difficult environment to be productive in, okay? So some of you might relate to me here, some of you might not, but in my room, I have a desk, okay? And I realized I got to start using this desk. But currently, well, not currently, but at the time, it was a storage unit. I had a bunch of stuff, old college textbooks, mail that I haven't opened, a bunch of Yoshinoya coupons or Carl's Jr. coupons that are expired like last year, right? No shame, I have no shame in that. I ended up recycling those, but I also have a chair that I put all my clothes on, right? If that's you, you got to make sure you put all that stuff away, right? Clear out the desk, clear out the chair, and make that your new work environment, okay? Tip number 2 is controlling your work environment, okay? It's really, really important to have a dedicated space where when you sit down, okay, or stand up, it's about to go down. Like, you're about to get stuff done, right? That's a very PG version of that phrase. But, when it comes to studying online, it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of discipline, but it takes a lot of focus as well. And I'm going to talk about all 3 of those things a little bit later, but I want you guys to know that you can't do those 3 things unless you first set yourself up by controlling your environment. So what I'm doing is I'm going to break down basically your ideal workspace, okay, into a few steps. Step number 1, have a surface that your laptop or computer can lay on flat, and also have room for you to take notes, like in a notepad or a notebook or something like that, right? Why is it so important? Because if you're in class, normally you're like writing down your notes most of the time, right? I see a lot of people typing up a storm sometimes, but a lot of us still need to type it. I mean, still need to write it out, right? Back in my day when I was in high school, I would have to find like a really flat rock and I would be chipping my notes, right? But I'm just kidding. I would actually write it down on notebook paper. I'm not that old, but that's step number 2. Have a place for you to take notes, okay? Step number 3, all right? Make sure you have a area where you could stand up and stretch, okay? I'm using a stand-up desk right now. This is the best investment I've ever made in my life because I'm used to working at a high school. I worked at a high school that had 4 buildings, and 2 of those buildings were 3 stories high, right? So you know I got my steps in every single day, but now I'm stuck at home. It's very hard for me to get that physical aspect in, so I stand up a lot, and that could be you too, right? You don't have to get a fancy desk. I know half of you guys probably have a bunch of shoe boxes or something that you could just stack up like Legos or Tetris and then put your laptop on top. Eye level, we're good to go, right? Have an area where you could stand up and have basically the ability to stretch, okay? Number 4, so important. You guys ever go to a hotel and the drapes like cover all the light out and it's like pitch black in there? You don't want to be learning in that type of environment. Use as much natural light as you possibly can, okay? Because there's so many benefits of being able to get that natural sunlight in. And honestly, everything just looks a whole lot better. You look a lot better on Zoom, I'm not gonna lie. Number 5, take away distractions, okay? I'm not gonna lie, I'm human. Sometimes I'm writing a paper, I'm doing some work, and then a notification on my phone goes off and I think about, oh, well, like, dang it, I needed something that I needed to buy on Amazon. And now I have 10 things in my Amazon cart and it's been an hour, right? Or you've been scrolling on Instagram and you're just looking at videos of like, you know, someone cutting a bar of soap or something, like something weird that has nothing to do with what you're studying. It's easy to get distracted, right? So what I like to do is I'll get my phone and I'll put it on the other side of the room, literally put it on the other side of the room. And I know for sure that that won't distract me, right? And you know, number 6 is so important. Okay, this is the last tip here. Number 6 is so important. Separate your personal space from your workspace, okay? I know some of you are guilty of doing your work in your bed or doing it in the same area where you watch your Netflix and stuff like that. And it's okay sometimes. There's some stuff you could get away with, right? But for a majority of the time, you need to have that dedicated space where, you know, stuff like that's when I sit there, that's when things are about to go down. Now, trust me, this next part, I want you guys to understand. I know what it's like to not have your own space, okay? I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 people in it. Okay, so I feel you. I know what it's like to not have your own environment, and I'm blessed to have my own environment, and I have a few tips to help you out with that as well, okay? Kind of think about some stuff that you could do outside, okay? If you know, okay, I got to study for this test, and I have a whole study guide right here. All I'm doing is reading it. I don't need technology. I don't need internet. Then make sure you go outside, and you can do that outside if you have an outside, right? And wear a mask. And, you know, just kind of control your environment the best you can, right? Someone once told me a tip that I think was really helpful, especially for all of you. And I appreciate her for giving me this tip because I never thought of it. But what she does is she gets a paper and she writes, "Be quiet, I'm studying." And she puts it on her door. So her whole family knows, okay, let's not make her mad. She's doing her thing. You know, let's not disrupt her, right? And just a little thing like that, a little gesture like that will help a lot of you guys out. So make sure you guys go out there and make your notes and be the master of your environment. Okay, so step number 2, control your environment. All right. Step number 3, master your schedule. This is so important. It's so important to have a schedule, guys. Okay. And let me tell you a little bit about a story of mine. When I was in elementary school, every single year at the beginning of the year, one of the best things ever was when they would give out these agendas. Okay. And it was one of those where the cover has like a dolphin and a giraffe on it. And if you move it around, like it moves, right? And it also had a bunch of pictures. And then one page had a ruler on it. And it had a conversion chart on the back, right? And my favorite part was every year on the last page, it tells you which celebrity shares the same birthday as you. So shout out Josh Peck from Drake and Josh. We got the same birthday. You guys can use that to figure out how old I am. But anyway, every single day we were required to have like a full out list of what we were supposed to do. And our teacher would check it. And I hated doing that, but now that I'm older, I realize that they were really teaching us one of the most important skills in life, which is to schedule. Okay. So, you know, especially during this time, you need to have an agenda. Okay. Don't get me wrong. Like sometimes in college, I was able to kind of get away with just remembering things. But now that we're like, everything's in person, it's very difficult for us to kind of remember and keep track, especially when we have so many things, right? So you need to have an agenda. Okay. And I just want to take a quick second to shout out Dollar Tree. Okay. Dollar Tree is the MVP, is the homie. Okay. You know why? It's because not only do they provide agendas for like 99 cents, okay? They even throw a picture of like cute kittens and dogs on the front for you, okay? So shout out Dollar Tree for keeping it 99, like 99 cents, guys. That's an Arizona iced tea, right? Before taxes, of course. But make sure you guys go out there and get your physical agenda. I always recommend physical agendas first. I put a picture of one right over here. This person's very organized, beautiful. Mine doesn't look anything like that. Mine looks a little bit more like Patrick's, but that's very, very important. And you know, if you're not doing that, if you're not, you don't have the, you know, those capabilities, or it's not convenient for you right now, there's a bunch of digital ones online for free, right? All of our phones have it as well. All right. And if you guys attended my Drake presentation, you know that I said something. And if you haven't, something that I said that's really important is that no matter what in life, it doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates or a college student, a high school student, a teacher, got 10 jobs, no jobs, doesn't matter, right? Everyone experiences 24 hours the same. Not experience, everyone has only 24 hours at the end of the day, no matter what. I don't care who you are, you have 24 hours in one day, right? And in order to manipulate those 24 hours, you have to master two things. One is prioritization, and two is time management. Prioritization is putting what's important first. Time management is the strategy you use to knock that list down, right? So some people write down what they're doing every single hour. Okay, that's cool. I can't do that. Or I'm not that organized. Some people only write down their most important tasks. That's more like me. Okay, today I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And then every single time I'm done, I cross it off, just like Patrick right over here, okay? Because there's so many psychological benefits to crossing off things on your to-do list, okay? It makes you feel good. It empowers you. It keeps you organized. It's important to look back on what you've done and just give yourself a high five sometimes, right? And make sure you take the time to kind of schedule out all your events, right? I know some people who, you know, start college, you get a syllabus. For those of you who don't know what a syllabus is, it's like a contract that has all the due dates on there. And at the beginning of the year, they'll go through their whole entire agenda and they'll fill out their syllabus. They'll fill out, okay, this is due in 3 weeks. They go 3 weeks ahead. They put this is due just so that you remember, okay? Because with the balanced schedule, okay, we only have 24 hours in a day, but if you have a balanced schedule, Father Time does not stand a chance against you, all right? So step number 3 is mastering your schedule, okay? Now I'm gonna go into step number 4, or tip number 4. This is my favorite tip because I get to talk about a time when I used to wear a green apron and a hat that said Starbucks on it. Yep, before I was advising people about how to, you know, go to college and stuff like that, I was advising people what kind of coffee or frappuccinos they should get, okay? And I really, really love my time at Starbucks because it taught me how to be a creature of habit, okay? So what does that exactly mean, okay? Every time someone asks me, hey, you used to work at Starbucks, how do you remember how to make all the drinks, right? The lattes, Americanos, the mango dragon fruits and whatnot, right? And they get intimidated. But to be honest, they made it so easy for us to learn all of these recipes because everything at Starbucks is a routine. Everything, how you make the drinks, how you clean the store, the way you check into work, how you wash the dishes, everything is based on a routine. And that's why Starbucks has been so successful as a business. But how does that translate to us as students, right? Or to me, exactly, working there for a while taught me how to really appreciate making everything into a routine and making habits, right? And I have to admit it, guys, I'm embarrassed to say this sometimes, but I start every single day the same, okay? I wake up, work out, I brush my teeth, I take a shower, I make my coffee, I drink the coffee out of the same cup every day. Sometimes I switch it up. I'm not gonna lie, I use a different cup because it was a gift. And then I eat my breakfast and then I read my emails, right? And if you ever meet me and think that I'm having a bad day, it's because something there went wrong, right? If something doesn't go right in my routine, then it kind of ruins a little bit of my day. And that's a story for another day. But when you make a routine, it leads to habits, right? And habits allow you to do things automatically. Now, if this was real life, I'll be asking you guys to raise your hands and everyone will be like trying to grab my attention because they're so excited to participate. And I'll ask, hey, what's a habit? What's a habit? but we're not gonna do that because we're in a virtual setting. And I just want to explain to you that habits come in clutch, okay? Why do they come in clutch? Because they help us do things we don't want to do sometimes. And that's right, I'm human. I know I said it, I'll admit it. I don't wanna wake up and work out every day, right? But I still get it done because I made it a habit of mine, right? And when it's a habit, it becomes automatically. I do it automatic, and that is a part of the routine. So it's very important for you guys to still have a routine, okay? Pro tip, pretend like everything is normal, okay? And you guys might think, well, you know, I didn't have a routine when I was young, when I was still in school, like regularly in person, but I can guarantee you that you did. You woke up, right? You may or may not have had breakfast. You go to school, you go to period 1, you go to period 2, you go to period 3, you go to period 4, you have lunch, you go to period 5, period 6, go home, so on and so forth, right? And it becomes so normal for you. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And the pro tip I have for you when it comes to that, me, I still wear my work clothes, even though I'm at home. And in the beginning, it was full body, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I wear basketball shorts and stuff and sweatpants now after it's been, you know, I like to do my work cozy and stuff. But at the very beginning, you know, I was wearing my slacks, I was wearing my jeans because it made me feel, right, like I was still getting up and going and still able to do my job. So that's a part of the routine. You see what I'm saying? So it's very important that you do that and you become productive. And now I'm gonna bring it to the slide, okay? If you guys are wondering, well, how do I create a habit? I'm gonna talk about this guy named Charles Duhigg, okay? Charles Duhigg wrote a book called The Power of Habit. So if this really interests you and you wanna further your interest, go check that book out. It's a great book. But he talks about how you create a habit. And now for me, believe it or not, growing up or even now, I have a lot of trouble speaking up in class, okay? Even if I know the answer, I'm always scared to raise my hand and speak up, okay? And I'm trying to make it a habit of mine to actually participate, okay? So step number 1, when you wanna make a habit, is a cue. You have to start in order to finish. For me, my cue, right, is recognizing, okay, I feel nervous right now, but I wanna work on this, I'm gonna raise my hand, that's the cue. So I raise my hand. Okay, number 2 is the routine. Like I said, wash, rinse, repeat, right? The routine in this example is me actually sharing my thoughts, you know, giving them my ideas and stuff like that. And number 3 is very important, is the reward, okay? So I don't mean, and sometimes I do mean this, where you can go out, buy yourself some nice, have a piece of cake, whatever, right? But in this case, what really works for me is just internally in my head, I'm just saying like, all right, you did it, good job. Like, good job, you did it, right? And sometimes I even give myself a high five, or I'll tell one of my loved ones about what I did. Like, that's my reward, right? And it's important to kind of repeat this cycle, because when you keep repeating the cycle, everything will be done automatically, okay? And my final example in the honors of the Lakers winning the championship, have you guys ever noticed whenever an NBA player in basketball shoots a free throw, right? With all these people yelling at them, how do they make it so much, okay? Some people not so much, but each and every single one of them, they have a routine and they have a habit before they go. They step up to the line, they take a deep breath, they dribble it 3 times, and then they shoot it. And they repeat that over and over and over again until they get it just right. So remember, sometimes in life is like shooting that free throw, right? You're gonna make some, you're gonna miss some, but the way you make more is by creating those habits first. So step number 4, build a routine and build those habits, all right? Tip number 5. Before I go into tip number 5, I do want to shout out that you guys all have an opportunity to win a Destination College Plus scholarship, and the code word for this presentation is right over there. It's online, right? How do I learn online? Okay. But anyway, I want to start off this tip with talking about 2 words. Okay. USB drive. Okay. Some of you guys might not know what that is. Some of you guys might know, but a USB drive, I'm trying to see if I don't. A USB drive was about like the size of this chapstick. And it was this little thing that you plug into the computer. Okay, when you plug a USB into the computer, you guys are probably used to plugging in your phone chargers and stuff, right? But before, we used to plug in this little chapstick thing, and it would store all of our files. It would store our Microsoft Word, our PowerPoints and everything like that. So whenever we go to class or something, we'd walk in and be like plugging it into the computer there and all that stuff, right? But all of that is gone. Well, I mean, it's not gone, it still exists, but honestly, who still uses those? Because the cloud was created. And you're in the generation that's still in high school now or in college now, everything is digital, right? And I want to share something that one of my mentors has told me in the past, okay? He said, humans are smarter than computers because humans use computers, okay? You guys are all human, I assume. So make sure that you go out and use computers, use the tools, right? I'm gonna give you guys a few success stories right here, okay? Number one is Google Suite. If you guys ever heard of Google Suite, it's the same thing as Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Slides, right? Google Forms. All of these Google kind of products that they have out there are considered Google Suite. And the reason why I'm mentioning this now is because when you, basically, if you make a Google Doc on Google Drive, and then you go to a computer out in some other country or state, as long as you have your email and login, it's gonna be there on that computer for you guys. Another big tip is if you have group projects, do it on Google Drive because multiple people can go on there at the same time. And honestly, most of you guys probably already know this, and I'm just sounding like an old person right now. But for those of you who don't know, Google Drive is clutch, okay? Number two, when it comes to loading up your digital arsenal, okay? Digital sticky notes, all right? A lot of us have Post-its that we use all the time and things of that nature. But I'm here to tell you that digital sticky notes are really awesome. You could download an app where on your screen and it's like a Post-it. You can always put reminders there, notes there, to-do lists, positive words of affirmation, which is like, hey, you're doing great. I do that. I know it's lame, but it helps me out a lot. Okay. Number three, Grammarly. Grammarly is an application that you could download on your computer. A lot of students don't know about Grammarly, and I'm just like, Grammarly basically checks your spelling, it checks your grammar, it tells you how you can improve your writing. It's completely free. There's a paid version. You don't have to get the paid version, okay? There's a free version where it helps you out with that. So when you're submitting your paper, it's in the best possible form as possible, okay? Number four is a calendaring app. So I always recommend using Google Calendar to set dates up and due dates in advance. I'm not gonna go into that because we already talked about making a great agenda, and I trust that all of you guys are already doing that. Number five is Canva. For those of you who have not heard about Canva, Canva saved my life. Why? Because when I was a kid and you told me fold a paper hot dog style or hamburger style, doesn't matter. It was not gonna come out pretty because I sucked at anything artsy, right? I couldn't draw a straight line to save my life. Canva is a great, great, great free website where you can make presentations. I made this presentation on Canva. You can make flyers, you can make infographics. Go out there, and the point I'm trying to make is go out there and use as many of the resources available to you because, ultimately, now more than ever online, we have so many different ways to learn and do things that you guys have to take advantage of each and every single one of that, okay? So tip number five is load up your digital arsenal. Tip number six, okay, is know your learning style. All right, some of us can read a 10-page Egyptian history paper and will know everything about everything, okay? Some people watch a 10-minute video, but they read that paper and they still won't know exactly what's going on. But when they watch that video, they'll be able to know exactly who built the pyramids of Giza, okay? Now, I'm the first person to say that growing up, I was that person, I can't math. I hate PowerPoints. I hate word problems, right? But now that we moved online, there's so many different resources out there for you guys and ways for you to learn. And I'm gonna talk about a few examples as far as how I was able to do that. Number one, most of your presentations from your teachers nowadays are gonna be recorded, right, on Zoom. So what happened for me was I was able to listen to the lectures again, kind of like a podcast, and I was able to study that way, right? Before in face-to-face classes, I wouldn't be able to do that unless I brought a little fancy recorder, but I'm not about to do that, right? Rewatching lectures, watching videos, and I want to talk about a few of my examples. So number one, when I started college, I was a health major, so I took an anatomy class, okay? In that class, for me, it required a lot of memorization. It required a lot of reading. But what really, really helped me was this YouTube channel called Crash Course Anatomy, where this really super smart guy talks about all of these different anatomy features, and he has like these nice little cartoons. And that helped me a lot more than any of my professors, to be honest. Okay. Number two is history, right? Don't tell your history teacher I said this, but you don't have to read the whole entire word for word book. Okay. I've learned, for some people it might work out if that's your learning style, but for me, I've learned that I learned how to skim for the most important stuff, right? When it came to English classes, what really helped me was that I would study in a way where I would want to teach the information. So that's a good mental thing with any of these of any of these subjects. Learn it as if you're going to teach it. And if you need to go and teach it to a younger sibling or your parents, or you're just going to force your dog to come and sit and listen to you lecture about a subject, do it so well that you're able to teach that person that lesson. And, you know, when you do that, you for sure know by yourself that you do know it as well. Okay. Um, be like a Swiss Army knife is something that I have here in my notes, because that's something I really want you guys to know. For those of you who don't know what a Swiss Army knife, it's like this little gadget that has a bunch of different tools on it. It has scissors, it has nail clippers, it has tweezers, it has a screwdriver, a flashlight, right? Be like that. Be multifaceted, be versatile, and have many skills, okay? I'm going to give a shout out to Super Smash Brothers right now, okay? Super Smash Brothers is the #1 example for this, okay? For those of you who don't know what Super Smash Brothers is, go out there and play Super Smash Brothers. Google it, go play it, because that should be a part of everyone's childhood. But it's basically a game where you have a bunch of different characters and you guys are all fighting and stuff like that, right? And every single character has its own superpower, has its own patterns, has its own skill set, right? And every single person that plays Super Smash Brothers knows that one person that only uses one character, right? That for me, there's one guy that always used Mario. He was good, but only with Mario. He never used anyone else, okay? Don't be like that guy, okay? Go out there and be good at multiple characters, okay? Because that's how you know that you have a lot of good learning styles, okay? I hope everyone understands that reference I made right there, because it's super important. Tip number 7, okay? Shout out to my dogs right there. They're cute, I know. But I want to go ahead and start off by talking about someone named Michael Kittredge, okay? Normally I say, do you guys know who Michael Kittredge is? And everyone's like all whispering among the audience and they don't know exactly who he is. And then I tell them who it is. Now, Michael Kittredge, okay, is this guy who, when he was a kid, he wanted to give his mom a present, okay? And what he did was he went to a local bee farmer and he bought a bunch of wax, okay? And then he got some yarn, okay? I don't know if that's the right, I don't remember if it was yarn or it was another material, but basically he made a candle and he gave it to his mom, and his mom was like, wow, this is so great. Can you make another one? And then he made another one. And eventually what that turned into was Yankee Candle. So I'm sure many of you have heard Yankee Candle, the company Yankee Candle, right? And the reason why I love Michael Kittredge and Yankee Candle is because that is my version of self-care, okay? Self-care is so important. It's something we've seen thrown around a lot nowadays, but it's something that we've been doing for the longest time ever, okay? Why is it important? Why is candles my self-care? Because at the beginning of the quarantine, I was working so hard. I was really stressed out. I had nothing to look forward to, okay? But what I always did, a part of my routine every morning, is I would light a candle because my room smells. So I just wanted to smell good, right? Now, my favorite is clean linen. And I do spend a lot of time at Target just opening candle jars and smelling them. So if you ever see me there, don't judge me. I recommend you guys do it too. But of course, wash your hands. Actually, don't do that, especially during this time. But anyway, when things get back to normal, you can do that. So, you know, no matter what the days bring for me, whether it was a bad day or a good day, no matter what, I knew at the very beginning of every day, I had something to look forward to. Lighting that candle up, and at the very end of every day, blowing it out. Because I love the smell of the smoke when it comes up after you blow a candle out, okay? So it's really important to have something like that. That was my self-care, okay? And why is it so important? Well, the very first way of practicing self-care is actually scheduling breaks, okay? So step number 1 is taking your breaks, because sometimes you get physically burnout, okay? And this, like, literally, this is like not getting enough sleep. Or, you know, when I just started working out when I was really young, I thought like, okay, 3 hours every day, I'm gonna get super ripped or whatever, right? But I got physically burnt out. I got physically tired. That happens. So take your breaks, okay, to avoid physical burnout. There's also something called mental burnout, okay? So when I started as a college advisor, what I did a lot of was review personal statements, okay? So what I would do is I would like take 10 of them at a time. I would be going home, reading them all the time, that by the time I get to number 6 or 7, I was so tired mentally that I wasn't able to provide quality work anymore, okay? So I learned, okay, I need to learn to take breaks, and then I need to learn to know my limit when it comes to practicing self-care as well, okay? The third type of burnout that I want to talk about is emotional burnout, okay? When all of this started happening, I would listen to a lot to, you know, the local radio on NPR and stuff like that when I was driving. But it got to a point where I started driving and I would just listen to nothing at all. And I realized it was because I was just so tired of hearing all the different news stories. And emotionally, I was just really tired and it was hard for me to get over that lump. So to avoid burnout, you have to make sure you practice self-care, okay? There's 2 myths about self-care that I want to debunk, and I want to debunk right now, okay? Myth number 1 is that self-care is selfish. A lot of people feel like, oh, well, if I take breaks, then, it's not benefiting me, or, oh, it's not right for the people I serve, like me. For example, for me, sometimes I felt bad for taking a lunch because that meant, I wouldn't be able to meet with a student for 30 minutes, but I learned how much I needed that lunch. And number 2, people think self-care has to be cheesy, right? They think, oh, self-care, that means I got to go, meditate or do yoga, which are both really great ways to do self-care, but it doesn't always have to be like that, right? You can go outside, right? You go water the grass, I don't know, walk your dog, socialize, right? Safely though. It doesn't have to be cheesy. It could even be, scrolling on Instagram, playing a video game, watching a TV show or something. And this is where I want to talk about self-care strategies, okay? Step number 1 for self-care strategies, your self-care can't be linked to school. Okay, so don't be that one person that's like, oh yeah, the way I self-care is by doing homework. You know what I mean? Like, no, don't do that. Like, just do something different. Trust me, it has to be completely not related to whatever you're doing. Okay, don't indulge. So to my binge watchers on Netflix, make sure you guys do not, if you study for 2 or 3 hours and you want to watch one episode of a show, then perfect, that's perfect, right? But don't end up having it at 3 a.m. and you finish the whole entire season of the show, right? Because that's indulging too much, right? Number 3, this one's hard. Make sure it's scheduled. Make sure at the beginning of the day, okay, for sure from 12 to 1, I'm going to eat. I'm not going to do anything school related, so on and so forth. And number 4, it can't be superficial. So what does that mean? Don't be going on a walk and just be like, oh, I'm self-caring, or like, oh, this must what it feels like to be self-caring, right? Take it seriously, and you will reap all the benefits. A few tips: get more sleep. Okay, number 2, exercise. That's my self-care. Okay, do something you enjoy. Okay, play with your pets. That's what I like to do. Talk to people. All right, it's very important. Back then, we would see people every single day, even people we didn't want to see, right? Now we're always by ourselves. So something I always recommend is use FaceTime, use Zoom groups, schedule like a group meetup, but on Zoom, right? If you organize that with your friends, because it means so much. Like for me, when this whole thing started, I had someone contact me. They reached out to me and they just say, hey, I just want to check in how you're doing. And that meant the world to me, right? To have that conversation, to talk with them for 20, 30 minutes. And it really made the rest of my day so much better. So if you're that social person and you need that energy, go out there and do it, right? Go draw or something if you're like that. But also make sure you go outside, guys. We're used to going outside, whether it's your backyard or just your front yard or whatever it may be. Make sure you're taking the time to do that, because you don't want to burn out. You want to take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to be taking care of your assignments or taking care of others as well? Okay. Now the final tip is tip number 8. Stay focused. Okay. One of my favorite X-Men is Cyclops. You guys know who Cyclops is? Cyclops is a guy, he has like a band, sometimes those sunglasses, and he'll just shoot lasers out of his eyes, right? But he had to be really focused, and that's something that he wasn't always good at, right? And that's what I would encourage you guys. Right now, it's so easy to shoot your lasers everywhere because it's hard to stay focused, but be like Cyclops, okay? Have that laser focus, because at the end of the day, you guys have come such a long way, okay? If you're starting college now, you worked your butt off to get there. If you're still in high school now, you got to work really hard now to get there someday, next year or the year after that, okay? So I know at the end of the day, it's hard, it's difficult, it's stressful, there's a lot of anxiety, and it's really tough, but I want you guys to know that there's nothing that you guys can't handle. And make sure you follow these 8 tips, because at the end of the day, trust me when I say it, you guys got this. So shout out Starbucks. I threw in that little picture of you guys. That was me, right? With the green siren. Starbucks hat. If you like this presentation, I have a lot of different tips and things like that on this podcast stuff I wish they taught me. Check it out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Feels so good saying that. But thank you guys so much for listening. And I just want to leave you off with this one final picture of this kid telling that you guys got this, all right? We guys got a crazy time, crazy year. But now I'm going to open up the floor to answer some questions. So I'm going to invite our moderator back in for any of that right now.
Thank you, Alex. We actually do have a couple of questions. One of the questions is, if you have an agenda, but you have trouble keeping up with it, what do you recommend?
I think that's a really great question. And I just want to shout out that student or that person and let them and thank them for asking that, because by asking that, you're probably helping out like way more of the people in here who didn't ask that question. So I really appreciate that. The second thing I want to acknowledge is you probably care a lot about your schedule. And I think that's the first step, right? Making sure that you acknowledge that you're committing to it. But I wish you could respond to this question that I would ask you. And it's, how do you eat an elephant, right? And you guys are probably thinking like, well, an elephant, what, does this guy work at a zoo or something? No. How do you eat an elephant, right? Someone once told me that, and I looked at him like he was crazy. And he looked at me and he said, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. There's no task that's too big. There's nothing that's too crazy. Every 1,000-step journey starts with the first step. So when I translate to your question, I would say start small. So let's say you're starting out with the agenda. Just start in the morning with what you're doing half of the day. Okay. Or if you want to be bold, start with that one day. Okay. And then the next day you do 2 days and then 3 days. And next thing you know, you're planning out your whole month or your whole week. Take baby steps, have fun with it. That's important too. Go out there, go use all the different colors that they offer in a Crayola box, all right, for your agendas, because that really helps out a lot as well. But I hope that answers your question.
Our next question is, how do you keep yourself focused when you have a laptop, like you wander off from a lecture and go read a webcomic? And then this person says they're asking for a friend.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. Thank you for asking for that friend. You're probably a really great friend. I do want to let you know that it's very easy to be distracted like that. How do you stay focused when it comes to the online feature? I think that's a great question. Now, the very easy and most basic answer for that would just to really be paying attention and staying focused, right? But for me, I think something that's really helped me out, because trust me, I'm a student now, it helps out a lot for you to kind of mentally check into your class and commit to yourself and just say to yourself, like, okay, like no matter what, for the next hour, this is my priority. This is my focus. I can't miss anything out here. Because look, I mean, I don't know how long your classes are. Maybe they're an hour or 2 hours, but even if they are an hour or 2 hours, that's only an hour and 2 hours out of your 24-hour day, right? If you cancel out sleep or whatever, like you still have 13, 16, 15 hours to look at all those other things, right? So I hope that answers your question. How do I stay focused? It's just really being disciplined, not having those other tabs open. What you could do is maximize like your Zoom screen, so it takes up full screen, and just promise yourself that you're not going to open anything else. But it starts with you. And don't be afraid, like creating the habit. Let's say you went through one whole lecture without looking at a different tab. Well, I'm giving you permission to go get yourself an Oreo or something, because you want to reward yourself for that. And then, next day you're like, oh, I really want that Oreo again. I'm going to try to do it again. I hope that really helps out with that question.
And how do you manage juggling and doing assignments when your teacher is adding more and each assignment takes longer than 20 minutes?
Gotcha. So how do you manage all of the assignments is a great question. So, thank you for asking that. And I think the very first thing I would want to say with that is doing the prioritizing and doing the time management, right? Making sure that you write it down in your agenda, literally. Okay, for me, my strategy is I like to do what I don't want to do first and get it out of the way. It's like, oh man, that history assignment, I hate history. I put history assignment specifically. Now, that might not work all the time. And I would encourage you guys, I got a news flash for you guys, okay? All right, hold the presses, hold the presses. Your guys' teachers and professors are human beings, okay? They're human beings, they understand, and some of them are not as flexible, I get it, trust me, I've had those. Some of them are really flexible, but the least you could do is always bring up that conversation, right? And be real with them, like, hey, now more than ever, it's easier because you can send it through an email and just say like, hey, a lot of the students and I feel like, the assignments keep piling up and stuff like that. If you don't feel comfortable by doing that, making sure that you dedicate the time to actually do those assignments. I know what it's like to have a million things to do at once and only one person, but you want to make it a part of your skill set to be able to manage a lot of different tasks, and also to be able to reach out to your resources. So if you have a counselor or an academic advisor or anything like that, make sure you take the opportunity of communicating with them as well, because they're going to help you out with managing all of the different tasks. And I know that's not like an easy fix answer to give you, but I have full faith that you will be able to conquer all of your assignments as long as you have a plan and you stick to it as well.
So we have two more questions, and we
Okay.
have about 2 minutes left in the presentation. Just to remind everyone, please ensure that you fill out your survey. The survey code for this session is online, all in one word. And then the next question is, if you have little siblings and you have to help them, look after them, how do you keep focused? How do you divide your time for them and for you?
Well, you know what? That's a really great question. And, whoever you are out there, I just want to mention that, I appreciate you. I hope your family appreciates you. I hope your younger siblings appreciate you, because a big part of our narrative, especially from being from LA and from the communities that we come with, is having to take care of our younger siblings, right? And trust me, you guys don't know me personally, but that's something that I grew up with having to do, right? I know it's hard, and it's hard to focus. And my tip for you is controlling your environment, setting your space where when you need to do that stuff, um, make sure you have the space to do it. Okay. Now, this is something that's always motivated me. Okay. You are the older sibling. Okay. You want to lead by example. You want your younger siblings to be able to look up to you and, not only be proud of you, but also like be like you. Right. And a part of that is being able to kind of manage those distractions in those times. And I know it's easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. I know it's much easier said than done, but I would highly encourage you, like maybe sharing the space with them. I don't know how young we're talking here, but maybe you have a desk or a kitchen table and you guys could work together and you could tell them, hey, little Jimmy, right now is homework time and we have to do homework because homework's important. And, just be really energetic and be really excited about it. And I hope that kind of helps you out a little bit. Just to sum it up for you: 1, be the role model; 2, have your separate space if it's possible; and 3, collaborate if you need to make sure that overall your home is a community of growth and learning and so on and so forth. Easier said than done, I know, but I hope that helps you out with that. These are some great questions. I know there's one more, so I would like to get to that one.
Yes, there is one more. And it is, you mentioned staying motivated. Is it bad if you are only motivated through someone's expectations of you?
Wow, I think that's a really great question. And I think it takes a lot of courage to ask something like that. So whoever you are, thank you for asking. Um, is it okay to be motivated by someone else's expectation? I think all of our motivations start with someone else, right? Wanting to make them proud, wanting to not let them down, not disappoint them. And I really think that a good way to do it is that every day, I always prefer that you're motivated by yourself. It's something called intrinsic motivation. So you always want to be motivated by you. And if you were at my Drake presentation, you heard all about it. But I basically talk about how if you're motivated by yourself, then nothing else will stop you from your goals. But at the same time, when things get hard, the only thing that you can always lean on is yourself, right? So my tip to you is find out if it's something that's externally motivating you, try to find a way to shift that into your own self, motivating yourself. And the way you do that is every single day, literally, it's going to sound cheesy, but do it. Every single day when you wake up in the morning, say one thing that you're proud of yourself in, and say another thing as far as why you're motivated to do something. For me, I wake up and I say, okay, I got 24 hours today. I'm going to do something great. I tell myself that every morning. Kind of cheesy, I know, but at the end of the day, I always do something great, right? And I'm not saying that to flex or anything. I'm just saying that that's an example. I'm going to do something great, or I'm doing this for me, or hey, I want to get this grade, or I want to learn this thing to learn it, not for the grade, right? So I hope that really helps you out. Make sure you go out there and start practicing intrinsic motivation. Look it up, intrinsic motivation or intrinsically motivated words, and start practicing that, because you're never going to be able to do it unless you try, unless you practice it, because motivation itself is a skill. So I hope that helps you out. Thank you so much for asking. It took a little vulnerability in there, and I appreciate you doing that for me. Don't ever change that about yourself. And thank you guys, everyone else, for all the great questions you guys provided for me today. This was such a great experience. I'm not sure if there's any more questions or if we have any more time, but make sure you guys check out the survey as well, okay? And don't forget this kid, okay? Don't let this kid down. You guys got this.
We do have one more if you
Okay,
are
cool.
willing to
Yeah,
answer one more.
of course, of
So
course.
it's how do you manage helping your mom at work and school? And while you think about that, there was also a comment from a student that said, "Thank you for having this session." She certainly does identify with some of the feelings and points that you've shared, and she will try the new things that she's learned in this session.
Got you. You know what? I always love hearing feedback like that because something like my life philosophy, like I said earlier, is if I can't change the world, at least I can help one person out at a time. I do want to just drop, before I answer that question, I'm going to drop my email in there. If you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to help all of you guys out. Thank you so much for that as well. But I do want to mention and answer the question, I believe it was, how do you help your mom out when you have all of these other things that you need to do, right? Man, that is so tough. And that used to be me as well. But I guess to answer that question is to really, really focus on having that sense of community. I know it's very hard having that conversation with our parents sometimes, but don't be afraid to be very honest, because I'm sure if you tell your parents like, hey, by me doing this, or like I have all this work I need to do, they will understand. I hope they would understand. I know some of us are in very tough situations where we can't do that. If that's the case, then I would just say fully embody your role as a student. Kind of be not be positive about it, but don't be afraid to like always just mention like, oh, I have all this work to do, or like, oh, I can't wait to start on my essay or something. And slowly but surely they might get, okay, well, this student's really busy. And don't get me wrong, some parents still need your help after knowing that. And I hate always connecting it back to time management, time management, time management. But that's all it really is when it comes to being able to complete your task, right? Time management, make sure you plan all your stuff out, have those conversations. Don't be afraid to ask for help, okay? That's another key thing. If you guys are at a high school or at a college, you guys have academic advisors, you guys have counselors, you guys have people that are there who not only their job, but their role is to help you, okay? No one does those type of jobs because no one does it for like the paycheck or whatever, right? They do it because they want to help you and they believe in you. And whoever you are out there who asked me that question, I hope your family appreciates you. Again, I hope your mom appreciates you. I appreciate you for answering that question. You are going to come out of this whole entire thing really powerful and really great. And you're going to learn from all of these little things that you're asking me and that you're going through as well. So I'm excited for you. To be honest, I don't know who you are. I'll probably never meet you, but I'm so excited for you and how you will take on this world.